We believe in our editorial process so much that we share it with you on this show. I kind of always do this goofy thing of being super psyched about special episodes. And what's kind of amusing about this episode is at one point we thought we were going to have 6 people and three very powerful poets all together in New York, and that whole thing just fell apart. So it's going to be a very intimate and small conversation today, but I think that'll be interesting. Let's see how it goes. So I'm Kathleen Volkmiller, and I'm an essayist and director of the graduate program in publishing here at Drexel University. And I'm at Drexel in my transcendent blue painted walls, and my walls are made of cinder block. Can you get it? Can you feel it? I've tried. There's lots of decorations in here. I try. But there's also that gum that poster tack stuff. I am so not domestic in these ways that when posters fall down, the gum stays up. So it's part of my decor, is these pieces of what looks like chewing gum on my walls. So there's that. And with me in the office today is Cherie DeVos, our current co-op. Hi, Cherie.
Hi, Kathy. And hi, everyone. My name is Cherie DeVos, and like she said, I'm the current co-op. I'm the editorial assistant here at DPG and PBQ. And I am a junior at Drexel studying many things. That's all.
Such a great time in your life, right?
Yeah.
She looks remarkably beautiful today. She's wearing a blue bow in her hair that kind of matches my cinder block office. Also with us today is Joe Zhang, our audio engineer.
Hi, everybody.
Yay.
Yay. And hi, Marion.
Well, hello there. It's Marion Wren, and I'm calling in from New York. I am in my apartment. And since we're talking about walls, I will tell you that there's a 2-foot crack in what we think is a really important wall for the building that happens to be in my living room. So the construction guys are going to come over in the next few days and literally take the wall out and replace it.
Yikes.
Yeah. So
don't be home when they do that. Go out.
God bless construction people who know how to do that stuff.
Wow.
So I'm back in your time zone, and so happy that I had a chance to be with the crew in Philadelphia on Monday at the PBQ meeting and reading at the Black Sheep. So I'm really excited to have this conversation, especially after having got to meet Cherie in person. Hi, Cherie.
Yeah, we had an absolutely terrific meeting. We were even sad we didn't record it. We were like, wow, this was so good. We had such a great time, even though we were accidentally relegated to the basement. It kind of makes it cozy. We have a big booth down there, and we got a lot of great work done. And then we had a terrific poetry reading.
Yes, we did.
So great to drink wine with you, Marion, and now drink coffee with you. And we're synced in our beverages.
Our beverages are synced, absolutely. Our beverages are synced.
I'm digging it. Okay, so today we have 2 poems by 2 different poets, and the only thing they have in common is both of these, they're both women poets. I really don't think they know each other. They're just coming together for this podcast for us. But they had their work, they had both submitted like 3 or 5 pieces, and everything got accepted at other places. They were just getting sucked up by the literary magazine world. And we said, let's jump on these as fast as we can. So that's why we have 1 each from 2 different poets. I think we should jump right in. Want to do the first one, Mare, since I just talked so much?
Yeah, I would love to. It's called Elegy, and it's by Jessica Hudgins. And And listeners, when you take a look at this on our page, you're going to see that the lines really vary in length pretty wildly, right? Some are really long and some are quite short, and it's a multiple stanza poem. So this is Elegy. When my mom and dad were doing the young married person thing, my aunt was always single, so she babysat. She gave me Cheerios and I ate while she had her breakfast cigarette. And afterward, we took walks and I pointed out all the volunteers, which is what my dad told me you call a plant you haven't planted, that by its own reseeding appears where it is not needed. And I told her to wash her hair with cold water, another thing she knew I had learned from my dad. She asked me, "What's so great about your dad you only learned from him?" And since then, I've been thinking it's not about greatness as much as it's about what sticks. Like, Jesse, I heard on the radio that sucking it in isn't healthy. You have to fill your belly to breathe well. And other things that are beside the point, which is that my aunt is not old, but she's not well. She didn't teach me any words about plants or about how the body should be treated, but she questioned me, as anyone should be questioned, who is like the soil and takes every small thing that's offered.
You know, obviously I've read this before, but I think that every time I'm looking at this, I'm really digging the juxtaposition between the really specific mundane Cheerios, breakfast cigarette, wash your hair with cold water, right? To the larger philosophical moments as well. You know, how those two are woven together. I think that's what attracts me here.
I think I'm drawn to the very fact of this elegy, right? Like the elegiac quality of both acknowledging the sort of love and honoring of the father, and then this sort of like what feels like aggressive question about like why you trust, why are you so enamored of that father figure, voice, truth teller, right? And that what feels like aggression is also an act of love and care, right? That the aunt is suggesting, you know, think twice about what it is you take to be truth, right? Which to my mind is just a really like accurate grasp of the complexities of these relationships in a family, fathers and aunts and daughters and how all that works. So that's actually the thing that I'm drawn to. It's a much more sort of like as you said, like the philosophical side of it, right?
Yeah. Well, that whole concept of, and since then I've been thinking it's not about greatness as much as it's about what sticks. Mm-hmm. I think that kind of has resonance, and I think once you read it or hear it, you're going to think a lot about that. Why do I remember that? Mm-hmm. When he was trying to teach me all of this, you know, and I only remember these strange factoids that stick. Mm-hmm. You know? Mm-hmm.
How old do you think the speaker is supposed to be?
Now or?
Yeah,
she's
now.
Well, I mean, she's little enough in the poem.
Not right now. I mean, like little when these things are being told to her.
I think pretty little. If she needs a babysitter and she's eating Cheerios.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? That puts her under 10.
Yeah. Cherie, why do you ask? What's behind the question?
I guess pretty much the reflection of the things that were taught by the dad, the things that are being mentioned. It makes me wonder how old she was that those things stuck. Like, I mean, clearly 10, she could be old enough to know how to wash her own hair and her dad to teach her tips about doing that. Or like this one about, I wonder where this comes from. Jesse, I heard on the radio that sucking it in isn't healthy. You have to fill your belly to breathe well. Mm-hmm. So like things like that, I'm wondering where they're coming from, if they're at different points throughout her life or when they were at a very specific time. She makes me wonder. So reading that, I'm starting to think it's at like some different points throughout life, because if her aunt's babysitting her was a constant thing, then I guess this is a pretty good like time span. Yeah.
Yeah, that's Sherry. I like the way you're sort of you've framed that in a way as it reminds me so much of what is the Robert Hayden poem, Those Winter Sundays, right? And the way Hayden is able to sort of conjure his childhood self, right? Recollecting what it was like to be in the house that was sort of cold until, banked fires burned, right? And that the father was responsible for creating warmth in the house. And that poem turns on that moment of reflection and recognition and gratitude that only the adult version of the speaker has, right? So that the child doesn't know and can't be grateful, but the adult I, right, looking back, is certainly grateful. And I take your point that if this was where you were headed, it's not like 100% clear the sort of time frame of the younger version of this I, but it's really clear to me that the I looking back is an adult, and the adult looking back is actually kind of ambivalent, right? Feeling like both gratitude and a kind of repulsion, right, for the aunt, the figure of the aunt here, and the questions that she's posing, right, about the wisdom of the father figure.
A kind of repulsion?
Yeah. So, and for me, it's here, right, after the Jessie I heard on the radio.
Yeah.
Which is that my aunt is not old, but she's not well. She didn't teach me any words about plants or about how the body should be treated. So those two lines make me think that like the gratitude is for the father who taught, words about plants and how the body should be treated. But she questioned me. And then it's like, as anyone should be questioned, right? So for a moment you're like, oh, well, the aunt didn't teach the quote right things, right? Oh, but what she did do was question, as anyone should be questioned, who's like the soil and takes everything in, right? So to me, that feels like a little bit ambivalent.
Wow, I have a total opposite read.
Oh, do tell.
Well, total opposite. I think she truly appreciates that the aunt approaches hanging out with her in a different way. They take these walks and she questions her, and those questions have stuck. Who is like the soil and takes every small thing that's offered. So, she's being paid attention to. So it's still meaningful.
Interesting. So the questions are what stick, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Takes every small thing that's offered. Right? So that she's absorbing everything, when anybody shines a light on her and pays attention to her, she takes it in.
Yeah. And it's funny. I think you and I are like on the same footing there too, because she's questioning the act of taking it in. So she's planting a seed of doubt in the child who takes everything in. Right. So she questioned me, as anyone should be questioned, who is like the soil. Right. So if you're like the soil and take it in passively, what the aunt is doing is also like shaking it up a little bit. Right. Like you should be questioned. You perhaps shouldn't be like the soil.
Or she should question what she's being told. Like, why is everything your dad says so great? Like, consider things your dad says. I think it's, I think it's that too, that like she's telling her, think for yourself.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Which is to say, the poem, like I have to, like, I'm not in love with the sort of the way the lines sit on the page, like the word like, getting its own line right next to the giant run of Jessica I heard on the radio. But boy, is that fun to read. Right? Like the poem really teaches you how to read it aloud. So that was a real pleasure to read aloud, because at first I was just like, meh, I'm not sure I dig this, the way it sits on the page. But
it's true. It has a really organic voice when you even rehearing it in my brain as you're speaking, Yeah. I think it's thoughtful. And it makes one think. It's thoughtful itself, and I think there's a lot to think about. Like, you can hang out here and think about a lot of things, you know.
Which
even the aunt, like, as soon as you say somebody's smoking in 2017, that hypes her in some ways, right? And a breakfast cigarette, no less, you know. But she takes her out for walks and has conversations with her. You know, she might not be well, but the speaker is getting value out of that, you know.
But remember too what Cherie said, it's like it's 2017 now, but this is a recollection of like let's say 20 years ago, 30 years ago, who knows, right? So the breakfast cigarette back then is possible perhaps in a way that it's not now, and which is evocative for me. Like I'm like, oh yeah, I can actually see that. I remember, you know, I had an aunt who smoked a pack of cigarettes a day easily, right? So it's that, as you said earlier too, the specificity actually works beautifully to conjure that lovely weirdness, you know?
I think it would bring up so much for so many people, even though it is 2017. Bingo. Do you know anybody that smokes, Cherie?
I do.
Yeah. As everybody's going to know somebody, right? Like for my mom, she got all 5 of us off to school, and then she would sit down at the kitchen table and have her breakfast cigarette. Like, and it was like a reward for, she'd already been up for 2 hours, you know, getting all 5 kids off to school. And that was her ritual morning cigarette. And I can remember that, you know. So anyway, at least we have it on number if we don't let Joe vote. I told Joe we were such a small group, and he's participated so many times. He's kind of an editor by now.
Seriously, de facto.
Yeah. Absolutely. So shall we?
Yes, let's vote.
Okay. 1, 2, 3, vote. All right. It's in.
Yay.
Unanimous. Yay, Jessica Hudgins. Thank you so much for elegy.
Yay.
We're happy and proud. Listeners, I think, Marion mentioned this. You can look at it on the podcast page for now, and then it will be both online and in our print annual for later.
Woohoo.
Okay. All righty. Okay. Next up is Rebecca Baggett, Daddy Box 2. So this is another poet who had some work accepted other places, and we asked her permission to read this. So now I'm gonna. You ready? Rebecca Baggett, Daddy Box 2. The locked box contains a pack of L&M cigarettes, a gray steel lighter, a frayed deck of cards, a brown beer bottle with a peeling label, twist of black pepper, bottle of barbecue sauce, cup of dark coffee, handful of watermelon seed, a faded green cap, a black metal lunchbox, a scattering of wrenches and screws, pork rinds in an unopened cellophane bag, the key to an old truck, the truck itself, mud flecked on the fenders, the tailgate dropped, loaded with lumber for the playhouse he'll frame in a weekend with his brother Bill for help. Uncle Bill, with his crooked grin, his thin frame leaning into the wood, the skeleton playhouse that will stand unfinished for months, then gradually fill with lumber ends, old tires, half-used cans of paint, then the truck in which he will bring home the 2 piglets you name Wonder Woman and Supergirl. Piglets that grow into sows fenced at the back of the lot across the alley. Sows you watch while Daddy tosses buckets of scraps across the fence where you perch on a hot August afternoon, eating watermelons split against the truck fender, sweet, sticky rivers of juice pouring down your arms and chin. And you eat every bite, down to the pink against the rind, then pitch the rinds to the snorting pigs who crunch and mutter as they feast. The whole of that summer is in the box, including the night you all swam in the little above-ground pool in the backyard. You, your sisters, your father and mother. The night he let you pile one after the other on his back, then rose and fell across the surface like a dolphin diving over the ocean's curve. While your mother laughed in the darkness, and you could see only the outlines of their faces, but you knew everyone was smiling. There is that night, far at the bottom of the box, the night you could imagine what a happy family was like.
Nice reading, Kathleen.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
I've flubbed a few times.
No. There's a way in which like list poems really feel like an incantation, right?
Yeah.
Like it's just, and I think the sort of the pace that you adopted it suits this piece really beautifully. And maybe it told you to, right? Maybe these line breaks told you to read it at that pace, right? So I think it's pretty astounding how that worked.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. I guess let's start there. The list is the obvious place to start, right? We old, I'll put you in the we with the old mare. We old editors, have an automatic reaction to lists in poems, right? And say, get out of here. That's so easy to do. But yet, I'll just start the conversation by saying this list is redeemed as a list poem for me, or redeems the idea of a list poem, because the items are so specific, and each single one, I don't know, is incantates a word? Now I want to use Marion's word. Every single item on its own brings up a lot. They're really important items, from a gray steel lighter, a frayed deck of cards. You could pause longer on every single item. You could give every one of these items to a class as a prompt, So I like the movement from the list to the more narrative of the family, and especially the father.
Yeah, so I think you're right. I love the fact that it's the three of us Wonder Women today talking about poems about daddies, right? So there's the redemption of the list, right? I think that's a really cool way of framing this, because I think the motor of the poem is really like, it's like the engine is kind of like a spiral. It's like this Pandora's box moment, right? Like this box is full of these detailed things. And once that box lid is open, the thing that sort of spirals up and gets conjured, right, is this whole universe of this family, right? And then it sort of spirals back down into that particular moment in the pool. And I love the image, right, of the father turned dolphin, right? Like cruising the surface with everybody on his back. Like it's really, I think, a lovely, lovely image. I'm not a fan though of the last few lines of the poem that sort of like really put a button on what the poem is about, right? Like far at the bottom of the box, it's the night you can imagine what a happy family was like. And, this is my taste, and folks might disagree, that it just, that like really does put a button on the very thing that I was getting from the poem already. Like,
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like this, that spiraling up, and the act of recollection, and the remembering these disparate pieces into this narrative of the family. I was there. I got it. Right.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily need that confirmation.
Okay. Allow me to beg everybody's indulgence. Cherie, Marion, Joe, our dear listeners. I would like to do something, okay?
Do it.
Just listen.
Oh, I missed so. Oh, I missed it.
He let you pile one after the other on his back, then rose and fell across the surface like a dolphin diving over the ocean's curve, while your mother laughed in the darkness, and you could see only the outlines of their faces, but you knew everyone was smiling.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Ta-da!
Yes. Yes.
So, Marion, I should have maybe asked your permission to say this on the air, but Joe can always erase it if you get really mad at me.
What?
I think we're very, very transparent about our editorial process. And when people ask me, do you ever edit work? I think we all say the same answer, only if it's a really easy edit.
Yep.
Right? We don't send something back and say, oh, it's a little fleshy. Oh, I want to see this more. We don't give abstractions, but if we can lop off 3 lines and we feel like there's an argument that the poem actually becomes stronger with less, we will request that sort of edit from a poet. So that is what I would suggest for this piece.
Oh my God. I thought you were going to go further and say, and Marion, you suck at endings. Therefore, you're the model. Like, honestly, why did you just ask my permission for you to say what you just said? Because it's absolutely the most logical, truthful thing. Like that's exactly what.
Well, you're my Thelma to we are who we are, and I just revealed something that I didn't know if you'd be like cool with it, if you'd think that Rebecca Baggett we shouldn't talk about the poem in that way, or whatever. Whatever.
All right, so I'm so down with that transparency, because I also want to be totally humble to the poet, meaning maybe she feels like that's absolutely the most important line of the poem, and she might not want the poem to see the light of day with those lines on. That's her fault, right? But I think I think we're sort of talking around this too. Like, when I work with student writers, sometimes when they're writing essays, this old truth, like you have to write the draft in order to figure out what it is you're writing. And sometimes what happens is that the argument or the thesis sits in the last page rather than the first page when you're drafting. And it almost feels as if like there's a way in which this poem works that the last 2 lines or 3 lines are doing that work of like driving the point home, right? Like she's figured out what the argument is, but she doesn't need to say it because she's actually said it, especially if she pulls her punches and ends on the word smiling, because then she's showing it rather than telling us what she means. But I think you're right. Like this for editors like us, especially when we're, moving through the slush pile, we don't have the time to really like dwell and develop pieces with writers. But when, we see something like this, of course, we're going to come back to the writer and say, this is a gentle suggestion, a humble suggestion. We'd like the poem like this. If you're down with it, let us roll, Yeah. I thought there was going to be bigger secrets though. I thought there was going to be a bigger reveal in your.
I would never tell them about your favorite hubby in high school. Now let's just shut. I guess I've also been transparent. I'm already a yes if we can take those 3 lines off. Right? I might have been a yes even without them. I love the piglets of Wonder Woman and Supergirl. I feel good about this family. I don't even mind that Dad never completed the playhouse and it became a tool shed. Yeah. That kind of shit happens.
Yeah, it does. Cherie, though, jump in. What do you think? Where's your head on this?
You haven't said a word.
I guess everything I started to say, you guys said, so I 16.
Sorry. So. She acts like we've been interrupting her.
No, I don't like to interrupt, so I was just, absorbing, and they were the things that I was thinking. So, like the same thing with the lines, the smiling. Like, I love the idea of ending on smiling, because you clearly understand that this is a happy family. And, but I guess, again, I'm wondering who the speaker is here. I mean, I guess it can be one of those children, but it's like in the second person, it's like, you remember this and there was this, and, you know, like telling the person. So I'm just wondering who's speaking. I don't know why that's always so important for me.
I think it's a family of daughters. Somehow that's why they named the pigs girl names, and they were going to have a playhouse, and, you know, what's another clubhouse, right? Is what you would say for a non-gendered one, maybe, or a boys' place.
I thought playhouse was non-gendered.
I don't know.
No.
I had a playhouse. And at one point of our lives, it was very like a miniature little house. We even had like, you know, fake kitchen or something. You know what I mean? And then as years went on and we got really cool, then came out the black light posters and it became a clubhouse. Mm-hmm. So I guess that's my problem. And you know what? I have 2 goals for this summer now. I had only one. My only goal this summer was to perfect the wine slushy. Now, I also want to take a watermelon and crack it on a tailgate and eat it that way, like just the broke up pieces, right? When there was something, wow, I love that. Yeah, like just rawr with a watermelon. Yeah. No. Yep. Right? And then we'll have to drive around and find some pigs. In the pickup, we'll drive and find somewhere to give the rides. But anyway.
So I'm wondering what this box is. I mean, because at first we had like this idea of a literal box. The lockbox contains a pack of L&M cigarettes. You have these small, really, you know, tiny items and very specific. And then you get to really more like, I guess, moments and experiences. Like, what? You have like pork rinds and so.
Yeah, that's right where it goes. That's right where it blows up. Pork rinds, the key to an old truck, the truck itself.
Yeah, the truck itself. And you're like, wait a minute.
Yeah, the truck can't be in the box.
And so, like, that was clearly, like, the turning point for him. Just like, where are we? And so I'm guessing that this daddy box is all of the memories, the fond memories of these daughters, these children with their father. But then I'm also questioning why the box is locked. Is it, I mean, you know, and are the memories are they too precious and they're just kind of sealed? Is the father gone? Is,
right,
you know, has something changed?
Yeah. Paging Dr. Freud. Dr. Freud.
I'm not sure, but I'm glad you picked out that moment because the very first time I read it, I loved that moment. That the key kind of then opens up the truck itself, and that's when we get in the broader picture and move to the narrative with a key. Kind of don't mind that at all.
Well, I think we might be ready to vote. What do you think?
Well, are we voting as is or voting let's ask Rebecca Baggett to lop off those last 3 lines?
I kind of want to vote on the second there, right? Like that's
with edits.
With edits, yeah.
Okay. All right. Are we ready?
Mm-hmm.
1, 2, 3, vote. And we are 3 for 3.
Yay!
On today's. Joe was sitting there with his thumb up, and I thought it was his vote. I was still waiting for a sign from God that Marion had spoken. I don't know what happened there.
Like a representative from DC.
Right. He's calmly got his thumb up, and I'm like, what? What's Marion say, though? Okay, glad you're in. What's Marion say?
Joe.
So, yay, unanimous, 2 for 2. Thank you, Rebecca Baggett, for Daddy Box 2. So what a wonderful episode, and what a Wonder Woman conversation.
Dun 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 dun.
Did everybody see it yet?
Not yet. I'm going to see it in the next couple days, though.
Me too. Me too. Let's see it at the same time, even though we'll be in different places.
And we'll text each other rudely, like rude audience members.
We'll be those obnoxious people texting in the movie.
Cherie, have you seen it yet?
No, I haven't.
You have to see it at the same time with us, okay? And text us rudely, all right?
All right. Perfect. All right. Well, yeah, I'm really happy. That was a great episode. I'm glad we took both of these. And thanks again to Jessica Hudgins and Rebecca Baggett, and to everyone else. So listeners, please follow us on all social media platforms. Tell us what you think of the show. Share the show. Use the hashtag tripod, TRYPOD, when you do share it with others. And keep reading. Thank you.
Yay!